Welcome to the ISPC Tailboard Talks podcast, episode 13, part 2. Power of Mental Wellness. I'm your host, Mark, along with my co-host, Jerry. How you doing today, Jerry?
Man, I'm doing great. Can't wait to get back into it with Mark Taylor, our guest. Very, very powerful first half of the episode. And if you missed it, guys, please go back and listen to it. Otherwise, a lot of this is not going to make a whole lot of sense. We'll try to touch base and fill you in if you don't have a chance. But I do highly, highly, highly recommend going back and listening to the first part of this. There's some statistics in there that you need to hear. And there's Mark's journey, the beginning of Mark's journey that you need to hear that may help you either A, come to terms with what you're dealing with, or B, give you the courage to speak up with what you're dealing with if you're dealing with something. So, yeah, don't miss out on that first half of this episode.
Couldn't have said it better.
And we got to say, that episode and this episode also brought to you by T&D Power Skills, our podcast sponsor. Take control of your training message, delivery, and cost, actually, all three of those. Training managers are challenged with the task of controlling their line worker programs, and they have to control all aspects of it. And with everything changing as fast as it is with technology, you need a solution that has the flexibility to keep up. Now, whether you're doing a full 4-year apprenticeship program that can be DOL certified, or if you just need 1 or 2 units or just 1 or 2 small templates to supplement what you're doing now, T&D Power Skills can be that program for you. If you want to know more, tdpowerskills.com, tdpowerskills.com. Use the referral code Tailboard2024, and I'll give you an exclusive listener 5% discount. tdpowerskills.com. Come check us out, man.
Yeah, and something just to reiterate on, Jerry, and I don't know that we talk about it enough. While T&D Power Skills specifically is a 78 course curriculum, and when most people think of it, they think of it as an apprenticeship program. But the beauty of the program, as well as with the courses and the material that ISPC has as well, all our stuff can be used individually or as a small group, a large group,
Absolutely,
or the full apprenticeship. So that's the beauty of it. If you, like you said, if you just maybe you need some refresher training on whatever, pole top rescue, bucket truck rescue, whatever, you can just use that course. You don't have to use all 78 of them. So,
and the brilliance of the T&D Power Skills program, at least for me, is that field performance requirement aspect of it, which is the physical hands-on training portion. That FPR is a proficiency document that works for proving their proficiency for HR and for the management side, but also for the worker themselves. They get to see where they are as far as having the skills to go with the knowledge base built on adult learning principles. Just a phenomenal program. I'd love to talk to you about it. Check us out.
The key to all training is competency, right? That's where we're all trying to get is competency. And like you mentioned, without that field portion, that field requirement, their field performance requirements on your side, the required field competencies on our side, you got to have them. There's no way.
And if you missed that podcast episode,
right,
you can go back and listen to it because we did a whole episode on competency.
So, part 2 of our mental wellness conversation with Mr. Mark Taylor. Just to kind of recap a little bit, like Jerry said, we went over some statistics and stuff in episode 1. I'm not gonna rehash those, but you could go back and listen to those if you have interest in those. And then, we kind of heard from Mark about kind of his career journey, and then Mark shared with us a pretty powerful journey story into his battle with mental wellness. Towards the end of episode 1, Mark started to get into some different things that allowed him to come to grips with his struggle around mental wellness. And so, without further ado, welcome back, Mark. It's great to have you back again for part 2 of this, and can't wait to hear more about your journey. And then I think, obviously in today's episode, we'll get a little bit more into what's out there to help everybody, right? We'll share some information and talk about a bunch of different things that can, like Jerry said, hopefully give people the courage to whether it's them dealing with the issue or whether, you made a pretty powerful statement there about a friend of yours that prodded you down the right path to eventually be able to talk about your issue and get help. And sometimes that's what it takes, is that friend that's willing to, you know what, we're friends, but you can be mad at me or whatever, but I'm going to tell you how it is, and there's something going on there, and you need to go get help.
That's usually the mark of a good friend when they call you out on your bull. They
That's right. That's right.
100%. And I got to tell you, he's moved back to Ontario, and maybe just a little. So last week when I was preparing some notes for this, just had he built a new house, and he sent me some pictures of the house. We connected and talked for probably a good hour last week. And I told him I was doing this podcast, and he said, that is so cool. He says, good on you for doing this and helping somebody else out. And he said,
Yeah.
He says, I talk to you now. He says, you are like a really different person. And I'm going, he says, you are just like, he says, out there. I don't know what out there means. I'm really not sure what that means, but I'm glad I'm different. So I think we left off where I was a little bit less. I'm a great rock and roll star in the city.
Yes.
And that is one of my releases. Another one of my releases is to work out. Just get on a treadmill and rock and rock and rock. I love to rock all over the place. Maybe I'll back up just a little bit. I had my hip replaced this March, and not being able to move. I had to wait 20 months to get my hip replaced, and I can honestly say, and the pain was absolutely excruciating, but I can honestly say, had I not gone down this mental health journey and got myself into a better spot, I don't know about the 20 months. I really don't know. That was some of the toughest 20 months of my life, of not being able to move and having to be so reliant on my wife and my son to do things, and a simple thing as putting up Christmas lights. My son had to come over and do Christmas lights for us, right? And I hate to be that burden, but I did journal for a bit. They ask you to journal, and I wasn't really good at that. And I told my therapist this. I was just kind of like, it's really not my bag. Like, I tried it and I didn't like it. But where we got to is we started looking for trigger words, and I had trigger words written down. If I used fat, idiot, dumb, these types of things, those types of words, they were a trigger to replace them with something else, and not be so hard on myself, and to allow myself to have, I can have one bad day, but I couldn't have two bad days. I had to figure out how to get out of the second bad day of doing that, but really it was the trigger words and putting myself down. So I can still hit a bad shot on the golf course now, and the reaction is just, oh boy, oh boy. And then a little bit of a giggle behind it, right? It's just like, oh boy. I'm really putting myself down at some point. There's a laugh that goes behind it, right? So I'm not taking it so seriously and stuck in that anymore, because I do think it is putting myself out on actions or things I'm not doing right is okay. And
self-deprecating is different than self-destructive.
Exactly.
And you can, yeah. And Mark, before we go any further, the exercise thing is huge. Just getting active, especially if you're used to being active, and then all of a sudden, due to injury or illness or whatever, you're forced sedentary life, or if you've never been active and you want a good, quick endorphin fix, because that's essentially what really helps, is that that the body dumps the dopamine and the endorphins, or the brain does, and helps level you out and makes you feel better. just going out for a walk. And for me, at least I know for me, and probably for you too, just being outside in nature, getting, especially if it's a beautiful sunny day and the birds are singing and the sun is shining and the nice cool breeze, and there's something to be said for vitamin D therapy with the sun shining and being out in it.
So, yes, I agree 110%. So where we got to with my therapy it was just the way I was wired. It wasn't a series of events or one event or this or that. It was just being wired a little bit differently on putting pressure on yourself to have the best of everything. And it was just, I kind of, really what it was is I took it to extremes, and it was really cutting myself some slack for being a human being. Like, no, I don't look like Brad Pitt. Probably never going to look like Brad Pitt, but that's okay. I'm good. I'm good in my own body. I'm good. I'm good in my own head. Those types of things, right?
Is that the tough one to get over, Mark? The No, I mean seriously. Like for me, I've had those issues all my life as far as the body dysmorphia and the comparison issue. Hell, since I was a teenager, and that's when I think that's when that one, the high school gym locker rooms as a teenager in the 80s and in the 80s. Jeez, I'm old. Kids are mean, man, and teenagers are really mean as far as that goes. So, I was a short, fat kid in school, and it's stayed with me this whole time as far as the body issues, the body positivity issues.
And it stays with me, and Jerry, 100%. And like I say, I just came through this hip replacement where I was pretty sedentary for a couple of years, and I've gained weight. And but I have it in my head right now that I'm going to take the weight off. Like now I'm back. I'm going to take the weight off just because it's unhealthy. Not because I don't look like Brad Pitt. I'm never going to look like Brad Pitt. I don't think I had a 32-inch waist since I was in grade 6. To tell you.
Same here.
So I don't think these things are happening. And where I've gotten my head wrapped around this too is that's okay. Look at what, and now I kind of focus on positives. Look what I've done with my career. Look what I've got a beautiful wife, a great son. He's got a fiance. My mom's still alive. Like I've got a good relationship with her. You know what I mean? Like there's way too many positives now to focus on, and so I don't allow myself that negativity to last long anymore. And that's where the therapy got me to is focus on all these things that you've done in your life, and the positive things you've done, and let the negative go. And that's where I get to. Probably talking to my son about my mental health and talking to my wife about my mental health was part of that relief. Like just to cry with them and say, hey, I'm not okay. And I'm sorry for being an ass for a number of years, right? And it's cool when people can forgive. And I used to hold grudges on a lot of things, and now I don't. Now I let it go. But I look at my wife and my son, and it's kind of like, Dad, don't worry about the past. Let's just enjoy everything we've got now. I always tell this story when my therapist said, Mark, I think you're in a spot, but we can always come back. If you feel unsafe or unsure or what have you, we can come back. Nashville is one of our favorite places in the United States. We've got a lot of favorite places in the United States. We were standing there in Nashville, my wife and myself, and we were standing on a street corner. I don't know, I said or did something goofy, and this is kind of my whole new thing now, is I'm kind of like I'm revisiting my childhood, I think, and a little bit goofy. She leaned over and kissed me on the cheek, and she goes, that's the boy I fell in love with and I married. And powerful, I'm standing on a street corner crying. Like, so all that is, there's so much more out there. Is what I want to tell people. That's really what I want to tell them, and they can't see it. That's the problem, is they can't see it, and they need somebody to help them see it. Um, the next portion of this is I've talked a little bit about the ways and means, and I kind of want to get back to this a little bit because it's quite expensive. Like, you look at 2 years of therapy, a couple $100 a pop, and everything else. Where do you get the money? You got the kids that are either playing baseball, or they got soccer, they got dance, they got whatever they've got, that you've got to find the money to look after your own mental health. So I was fortunate. And that led me to, when we moved into primary, our president and CEO at the time, Mike, he asked how I was doing on my mental health journey, because he knew, because I told everybody. We sat down with the executive, and I told the executive, so hang on, I should stop here, I don't kill away sometimes. So when we were in COVID, mental health started to become a really big issue in Canada, and mental health of the workers started to become a big issue in Canada. And I looked at that, and I was going, we should do something. We need to do something. And as a company, we need to do something. And then I'm going, okay, who's going to do it? So Mike, our past president, and Jesse, our current president, said, I talked to them, and I said, hey, I'd like to do something around mental health. And they connected me with another gentleman in Ontario that he was the mental health advisor for this large company. And I was going, mental health advisor? Wow, I never even heard of that title before. But I talked to this guy, and he gave me a few ideas, and it spurred me on. So what I did is, at primaries, I developed a mental health guide. And in there is signs to look out for. There is probably 10, 15 free resources where you can pick up the phone and call somebody. We have a Let's Talk Day here in Canada where we talk about mental health, and we publish numerous free resources. So I put all them resources together for our company and started to publish this out. We have an employee and family assistance program in our company. And I think most companies with a benefit plan have that. But what I started to dig into was, okay, if I called the family assistance program about mental health or any issues, could be legal issues, what have you, then you only get 3 sessions. I mean, you can't, 3 sessions is nothing. Like it took me 30 sessions or maybe longer, I'm not sure. So I started doing a bunch of research on these family assistance programs. And I found one that gives us up to 20 sessions for our employees. And you can do it virtually, you can go in person type of thing, what have you, but it's 20 sessions for free. And I'm going, wow, we got to sign up with this company. And we have. We've now shifted. I told the executive my entire mental health story. So I've lived that mental health that I've talked to you folks about. And why I'm so passionate about it and trying to help somebody. And so we made this switch, and this company sends us stats. So part of my job is human resources right now, and part of my job is safety right now. And so they send us stats, and the stats are people who are using the program. You don't get, Jay, I wouldn't get your name, and Mark, I wouldn't get your name, I wouldn't get the field doing or construction services or what have you. But I do get employee X called about legal issues, or employee X called about anxiety. And we're now in this program of up to 20 sessions. So I look at those 20 sessions that you get there, plus the 3 to 5 you get from your benefit program, and then that rolls over every year. I'm kind of going, okay, we're in a little bit of a sweet spot here. Now we're starting to gain some traction on this. I go to every one of the offices at least once a year. I roll out the mental health program with them. I talk to them about my mental health journey, just so that everybody understands that it's okay to talk about this. I've had this conversation with our construction folks so that they know it's okay to talk about these things now. But here's this guy that is like a director and sits on the executive of the company, and he's talking about his mental health, and here I am maybe just a first-year apprentice. Well, if he can talk about it, then I can talk about it. And that's really what I'm trying to get this all shifted to. The other cool thing I did is I started going on down this trail some more, and I took mental health first aid training. And this was a program that opened my eyes like you wouldn't believe. So it's offered in Canada, and I tried looking for the United States, and I can't seem to find it. If you guys could maybe dig into that a little bit, and if you find it, everybody in the company, anybody who has first aid training should have mental health first aid training. And it doesn't make me an expert in the field by any stretch of the imagination. It's like me walking up to you, Jerry, and you have an arm injury. Hi, my name is Mark Taylor. I'm a first aider. Can I help you? Well, now it's, hi, Jerry. My name is Mark Taylor. I've taken mental health first aid training. Would you like to talk? And I don't counsel, but what I do is I help you find resources. I'm that guy that sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger than it is to your loved ones. I'm that stranger that you can call or talk to, and again, I'm not going to counsel you, but I'm going to get you help. And it's happened here at our company. We've had an individual on a Friday night in a different province call me and say, hey, I'm not doing well. I walked out of our 20th anniversary party and talked to him for about an hour and a half. The next day, on Saturday, I was driving up to a place in central Alberta, and I called him again just to make sure he was on, just his head's in the right spot. I called him again on a Sunday, and on a Monday, he had the resources in front of him, and he made some phone calls and he entered a program. And it's those things that really, when I tell my story and what I'm trying to build here, is that we don't want to talk about it, but then do we actually want to do anything about it? And do we want to push the envelope on this and get people the help they want? And I looked at this from my perspective, and I actually sat on a park bench this year. I sat on a park bench for an hour and just watched life go by. I got to tell you, previous to this, Alabama, the band Alabama, the song "I'm in a Hurry." Mm-hmm. That was my theme song. So now when I hear that song, I laugh. I laugh at that, and I sing it. Now I belt that out. But that was my theme song because I just ruined everything. It was moved from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to find that gratification. But now I can sit on a park bench and just watch people go by. I can have a conversation with people because I want to hear their story. I don't want to tell my story. I want to hear your story. I want to hear how great your life is and all the things that you're doing so that maybe I can do a few of those things. I did this at IOTA, and it's because I'm reading some more articles on mental health, and we tried it. We tried it at IOTA. So, have you ever hugged anybody for 10 seconds or longer?
Changes the game, man.
It changes the game. It does. It absolutely. Like, how do you walk away from a hug at 10 seconds without, I don't know if I've stolen your energy, Jay. If I did, I'm sorry. But you just can't look at a person. It could be male, female, whatever, and you've hugged them for 10 seconds, and you both walk away with this biggest smile on your face. And so we tried this at IOTA, and there was an awful lot of laughing and giggling and going on, but I'll tell you, it sure lifted that room in a hurry. It was just kind of like the energy changed in the room.
Yeah, it's a definite exchange of energy.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm gone with this, and I'm not done by any stretch of the imagination. I think podcasts are the next thing to talk about it. I think the work that ISPC and you guys having me on and talking about mental health, I think we just got to get that message out. It's funny, but the saying is it's all right to not be all right, and it is, and my heart goes out to these workers. Like, it's when I see the suicide rates, or to anybody, when I see the suicide rates, I'm just like, wow. I wonder. Some days in the back of my mind, I wonder how close I was. But now I really wonder is if all of us as companies and safety professionals and workers have each other's back, if we truly got each other's back, then we should be talking about this. and we should be finding help for one another. And I don't know if it's the pressure that the board puts on us. I'm not looking for any clear answers. It's just really, I don't know what goes on, but I just want people to know that somebody's out there that's got your back. And that's kind of where I'm at with my story and my journey. We do goofy things at work. So in Canada, we're under snow and ice for 6 months of the year or somewhere around that. And we started this thing called the Fresh Air Challenge across all of our offices. And so we do have a lot of engineering people. On May 1st, we challenged them for the entire month. We put special days in there where you can earn bonus points and everything else. And it's just to get out of the office for 10 or 15 minutes and throw a football. We've seen folks that do this frisbee golf. I haven't tried it yet. It's on my list of trying frisbee golf. They throw footballs. They play badminton. The wind blowing at 100 miles an hour. They play hockey. It's all kind of cool, and they challenge the other offices. And most they're fighting for is a pizza lunch at the end of this thing, right? And we did it 1 year just kind of, okay, we want you outside, a little bit of activity, you're with your coworkers, we're trying to break up the monotony of in Canada, you can go to work when it's dark and come home when it's dark, type of thing. And spring is here, let's get outside and appreciate it and one another. And we did that the first year, and we weren't sure we were going to do it the second year until the employee said, hey, aren't we doing a mental health first aid challenge? And I'm going, hey, if we're throwing mental health in there now, let's run this. Let's just run this and see where we go. Questions? I know I talked a lot.
So, Mark, I just wanted to follow up a little bit while you were talking there last couple of minutes. I was just doing some quick searching on Google to see what type of first aid mental health programs might be available, and there's actually a couple. So where was it? So the National Council for Mental Health for Mental Well-Being has a course, an organization I think similar to the Red Cross, right? That they're a nonprofit, and you can go through that organization to find resources similar to the Red Cross. And there's also, I found another one. It's called 360 Training, and which is actually online courses that are done. This actual course on mental health issues in the workplace is designed and guided around the OSHA guidelines and specifically the general duty clause. And so you can find that at 360training.com. That's 360training.com. It's $39. You get a certificate. It says our mental health first aid training course satisfies OSHA guidelines, includes sections on the causes, signs, and symptoms of mental illness, how to respond to a mental health emergency, and debunks common myths. Upon completion, you'll get a certificate of proof that you successfully finished the course. So there are some resources out there, that people, if they want to be able to, some of those courses there that I just mentioned for HR people and safety professionals and supervisors and those type of things to help. We talk about all the time. I just did a training course a couple weeks ago down in Georgia and on crew best practices, and one of the things we talked about, or I talked about, when it came to the job briefing, is you got to understand, especially if you're the crew person in charge, you need to understand if your people that are working with you that day are with it, right? Is their head in the game? Are they ready to go do that task of energized work or whatever the case may be? We can't be sending our people into these dangerous positions, hazardous positions, and they're just not with it, right? There's other crew members that can do that work that day, but it takes, in my mind, two things. It takes crew leaders and other individuals for that matter that can recognize when one of their coworkers is not on their game that day. And then the even tougher part is what we've been talking about today. And the willingness of the individual that knows they're not with it today, right? They, or maybe they don't. If you go back, early in your journey there, Mark, you stated about how you thought maybe something was wrong, but you weren't sure, right? And so it takes the individual as well to say, hey, maybe something's going on here. I just don't feel right today. But having the courage to, and you don't have to tell a whole group of workers, right? Go to the guy in charge and just say, hey, man, I'm just not feeling well today. Something's not right. Can you have somebody else go up and do the hot work today, or do that dangerous work that will keep you from getting in a position where things could go severely wrong. So yeah, I can't stress enough the proactiveness and the prevention part, right? That we got to get out there and let people know, not just at this podcast level, but at all the way down to the crew level, right? It's okay to say something when you're not having a good day, and that's really what we need to push and make people at all companies understand that. Listen, I'd rather speak up and say something than we're gathered around a funeral procession or something to that nature because I didn't have enough courage to stand up and say something. It's a tough thing.
It is, and there's warning signs, right? So if if you look at people and they're anxious and they're worried, okay, well, but if it's one day, it's one day type of thing, right? They're depressed or they're unhappy, emotional outbursts. If they're not sleeping well, weight and appetite changes. If they become quiet or withdrawn. If you see substance abuse, like I know the boys like to go for a pop after work type of thing, but, and nothing wrong with it. I'm not, but if it becomes an issue, okay, and then if they feel guilty or worthlessness, and I think, we do put a lot on our crew leaders, we do, but really, if the crew leader knows his people, he can see those changes. He can see those changes, or she can see those changes.
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
Not being afraid to talk to your people. So I find a lot of this with people is that, especially nowadays, people are afraid to piss somebody off. But with this, you can't be afraid to go, are you okay? And have them be pissed off about it. Like you said, Mark, you had a hair trigger temper. You would things would go bad and you would go fly off the edge. A lot of people with issues, myself included, had or have hair trigger tempers. My whole young adult life, 20 to actually probably 35, I mean, short fuse immediately. My wife was never, who is the love of my life and probably the reason I'm still alive today, was never afraid to get in my stuff and say, dude, are you okay? You need to back up for a second, take a second. And she was always that grounding force for me. So you have to not be afraid to talk to people and to run that risk of them getting upset, in finger quotes, by you, confronting them. Because that may be the thing that saves their life. That may be the thing that goes, oh, hey, maybe I do need to look at something to get some help.
Yeah, even as simple as just kind of sitting down and saying, hey, what's going on? Yeah. What's going on, and they may tell you to take off, or use that word instead of another word. But, and then they tell you that, and you just turn around and say, hey, I'm just concerned about you. I'm just kind of, you just don't seem right. And it may not happen in that moment. But when the person knows that somebody actually is there, and it could be, anybody that they know that they're there, all of a sudden it makes a difference. And for me, it was a friend of mine because I couldn't talk to my wife about it because I was afraid I was less of a man if I told her these things. And I don't even know how to approach that anymore now. That, like, okay, so we're a man and we can't say, hey, I feel worthless, I feel this, I feel that, I feel all these things, and then why?
Yeah.
It floors me that we can't have those conversations, and I think we gotta just keep asking, people and sitting down with them.
I think in the workplace too, it's in your guys' situation, you mentioned how you had a strong individual that was willing to confront you and say, hey, are you all right? What's going on? So on and so forth. Um, in the workplace, when I was a supervisor, and I think this is something all supervisors need to do. If you supervise people, if people work for you, report to you, you supervise people, you need to gain that understanding of what makes them tick, right? What's going on? We're so focused, right, as supervisors of getting work done and getting things done and moving forward. But we need to take that little bit of time with all those people. And I could tell you the majority of folks that worked for me, I won't say all, but the majority, I knew their wife, at least her name, right? I knew what she looked like. I knew if they had kids. I knew what, did they like to hunt? Did they like to fish? Did they like to golf? What made what made them go? What made them tick, right? Because work's just a little piece of it. Or a necessary evil, whatever you want to call it, right? And so if you understand what makes your people go and what makes them tick, then it's a little easier to understand when they aren't ticking, right? When something's wrong and they're off or they're quiet, or some of the symptoms you named just a little bit ago, Mark, in are they all of a sudden, normally they're talkative and they're the life of the crowd, and all of a sudden they come to work one day and they're not saying a word. They're just kind of sitting back there in a daze, right? Well, if you can recognize those things, it goes a long way to maybe preventing or helping somebody to get help, right? And say, hey, man, and again, you don't have to do it in the morning meeting or the job briefing in front of everybody. Pull the individual aside and say, hey, man, something seems off with you today. What's going on? Like, is everything okay? Are you good to go to work today? Do I need to find something else for you to do today? Maybe. So just being able to start those conversations, and it also does another thing. I think in the workplace, again, it's hard to speak up, right? Especially if you're in an all male dominated industry. And, let's face it, I work for one of the larger investor owned utilities in the United States. And I can't even get all five fingers up on one hand the amount of women I knew that worked in this trade. We did have a couple. But if you have that relationship with the people that work for you, that you can just carry on a conversation about what's going on in their life, the more likely they're going to come to you and tell you something when something isn't going wrong, right? If you just have that strict work relationship where, here's your work for today, and at the end of the day, yep, I got my job done. And tomorrow, here's your work for the day, and yep, I got my work done today. Versus being able to carry on conversations with those people and understand what's going on in their life, at least from a standpoint of, are you good today or are you not good today, goes a long way to help battle this challenge of understanding when people aren't there mentally.
Mark, you nailed it on the head, and this is why I love primary, working with primary so much, is I can be on a meeting with whoever, the executive or what have you, and generally 9 times out of 10 very stressed over IT issues. I mean, I'm not going to get this thing turned on in the morning some days.
Yeah.
Generally, my stress level go through the roof. But they see this in the meetings, right? And it won't be shortly thereafter that my phone will ring from somebody and say, hey, we noticed you were maybe a little bit disengaged today. Everything okay? The other thing to do is a lot of companies have safety moments, right? They start off a meeting with a safety moment. We have safety moments and mental health moments. You can talk about either one. Talk about either one. And that just keeps pushing that mental health topic to the top of the page, right? Instead of letting it slide down. But you nailed it by knowing your workers and saying, hey, you just seem a little off today. You okay? Generally, when they tell me it's IT issues, I just throw it out there.
Right.
I'm all good and all stressed. I can't get this thing to program to work with me on the side there. Either that or they're giving me an Excel spreadsheet that I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You're knowing the topic, and I think the more that like organizations like yourself and the more that safety professionals go back to your company and say, hey, are we doing enough?
Mm-hmm.
And find these organizations where we can do more. And a lot of it can be just bringing the topic up. Just people knowing it's okay. It's okay to have this conversation.
Yeah.
That's the key, I think, Mark.
Yeah.
That's the key. Knowing it's okay. Breaking the stigma of having a problem. I mean, you can have knee issues, back problems, shoulder problems. You can have a physical problem all day long in this industry and nobody bats an eye. But because of how we think, because we're, all macho men and, we can't have a mental issue or a mental problem or be broken mentally because then that's unfixable. It's not. It's fixable. It's something that sometimes all you need is a conversation to help break that stigma of the mental health being, so horrible and unfixable. And have those conversations like y'all have been talking about. Hang tight. I got to take a second and talk to you about our sponsor before we get too far into this any further anyway. T&D Power Skills is your sponsor this week, or this podcast, I should say. Guys, we've talked about taking control of your life, your mental issues. After you do that and make sure you're good, take control of your training program. Get everything situated on that end. Make sure everybody comes home safely because they're trained well. 78-unit course curriculum designed with the adult learner in mind. T&D Power Skills can help you control your message by customizing the program. They can help you control your delivery with the flexibility to scale from a single unit to multiple units in a full 8,000-hour apprenticeship program. And with multiple delivery methods and models, they can help you control your costs. So take control of your training. Check out TD Power Skills, T&D Power Skills by going to tdpowerskills.com. And if you mention Tailboard Talks or use the code Tailboard 2024, we'll give you an exclusive 5% listener discount. tdpowerskills.com. Take control of your line worker training. Okay, back to the good conversation here.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry. I think, there's no one fix all here, right? And for different people, it takes different triggers, it takes different remedies, what works for, Mark, you mentioned that walking and kind of doing some exercise and so on helps you certain times and you enjoy driving. And so, you know, it I know when I'm having a stressful day, right? I'm kind of the same. I'm an outdoor person. I like to get outdoors. If it's a nice day out and I'm even just stuck in here working behind a computer, just get up, walk outside 10, 15 minutes, go for a quick stroll, just kind of lessens the load and can kind of reset you. But I think that at the end of the day, there's probably a couple dozen, if not more, pieces here when it comes to diagnosing this or recognizing you have a problem, or maybe recognizing that a loved one, a family member, whatever, a coworker, that something just isn't right, and having the courage both ways from the person with the issue. But I think more importantly, and you said it in your journey, Mark, it was that friend that was willing to sit there and talk with you all night. And in my mind, that might have been your turning point to, okay, something's definitely going on here. I had a friend that was, nice enough to confront it and help me confront it. And then that allowed you to go talk to your family and your loved ones about it and kind of get that ball rolling, right? And Jerry mentioned that person was his wife. And I think it's so important, especially in the people that you know fairly well, that if you see something, more than likely there is something there. And not always will it be mental illness. There just could be issues going on. But even if it's not, we need to be willing to talk to those people and say, hey, man, what's going on? You don't look right today. Something doesn't seem right. I think it's very important to be able to step up and do that. And so I wanted to share too, just there's some resources out there. Mark, you shared a couple of these, and then I found a couple other ones as well. So, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're like, man, I'd like to talk to somebody, or I need to talk to somebody, and you don't know, maybe you don't have an employee assistance program where you work. There are some other resources that you can dive into. And so two of them that Mark shared with me that I want to share with everybody, the Mental Health America, and their website is mhanational.org. That's mhanational.org. So that's in the United States, and or maybe, I guess, international maybe. And then one specific to Canada, mental health support, and that is canada.ca. Again, canada.ca. And then the other two are probably more of a crisis type thing, right? If you're at the point where you're thinking about doing something to yourself, and you're kind of on the edge of that cliff, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, you can dial 988, and then the crisis text line, so get you to the same place. If you don't want to talk to somebody, you can text the word hello to 741-741. And so there's some resources that, if you're out there listening and now saying to yourself, well, maybe I got something going on that isn't quite right, and I want to talk to somebody, hopefully, it'll spurn you to get some help and make a phone call, talk to somebody, right? I guess the other thing is, too, some people, I don't know if we even mentioned this today, but some may not feel comfortable talking to a close relative or friend, or, right, they'd rather talk to somebody that they don't know, to maybe get this ball rolling. So
if you don't know what you know, and Mark will offer this up to your listeners, if you've got nobody to reach out to me through my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Reach out to me through my LinkedIn profile. I'm on LinkedIn once a day. It may take me a day to get back to you, but I'll get back to you. I'll reach back out. So, I mean, that's...
Thank you for that, Mark.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, number one, getting to know you a little bit. I can't say thanks enough for you being willing to come on this podcast and share your journey. Like you said, I think this is medicine for you. It allows you to share your experiences, kind of put it out there that you're not alone, and there's other people struggling with this. Talk to people, get help. But I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your journey and letting everybody know, hey, there's resources out here. And like you said, worst case, if you have nobody to talk to, look me up on my LinkedIn profile, and I'd be happy to talk to you. And so can't thank you enough. We really appreciate you being on here.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough for the work that you're doing, and I really appreciate you guys have had me on, and the part part that's kind of blowing my mind a little bit, Mark, you told me this could happen. If you said the 2 hours are going to fly by, like you wouldn't believe, right? So I'm sitting there kind of all anxious back going this morning, and now I'm looking at the clock going, holy cow, where did 2 hours just go? Like, it's gone. So, thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed this. It was my pleasure to do this.
Our pleasure, Mark.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. We're here to help all aspects of our industry, and you can consider in my mind, you can consider mental wellness as much of a safety issue as anything else in our industry, right? If your head isn't in the game when you're working in the electric utility space, unfortunately, more than likely bad things are going to eventually happen. So this is something, again, that should be talked about. I mentioned a little while ago about my spiel on best practices and these conversations happening at the job briefing level to let your crew know that you might just not be there today. And I don't think we can stress it enough. So, Jerry, why don't you take us home, man? Give us another shout out.
This podcast has been brought to you once again by T&D Power Skills. T&D Power Skills, a phenomenal training program, scalable for 5 people to 5,000 people. It is built around adult learning principles. It takes the adult learner into account when it delivers the program. Video-based, watch the video, follow along in the student workbook, do the section quizzes for the recall practice, and then get out in the yard and do the field performance requirements for the proficiency and hands-on portion of it. Phenomenal program. Many delivery models, and absolute control of your program by you. You're not worried about somebody else training your guys, your people. You are training your people, letting them know exactly what you want and how you want them to get it. You want to know more about it? Find us online, tdpowerskills.com, tdpowerskills.com. And if you use the referral code Tailboard 2024, I'll give you a 5% exclusive podcast listener discount. Thanks again for hanging out with us again. In closing, the views and opinions shared in this podcast are the personal viewpoints of the participants and may not necessarily reflect the stance of the Institute for Safety and Powerline Construction or its staff. It is highly advised to consult your company management before implementing any actions or policy changes. And please support our sponsors that bring this content to you. For more episodes of ISPC Tailboard Talks, subscribe in your favorite podcatcher. Be sure to leave us a review, man. We would love to hear from you. Mark Taylor, thank you again for hanging out with us, guys. We appreciate y'all. Don't be afraid to reach out and say that you need help if you need help, or if you're just having a bad day and you need somebody to talk to. Find that person and go home safe at night.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Mark Taylor. Appreciate you so much. Look forward to giving everybody the opportunity to listen on the next ISPC Tailboard Talks. Check us out. Catch everybody later. Be safe.
Take care, everyone.
Vaya con Dios.